Today, August 17, 2025, and we're hearing there's been a massive shooting in New York. Let's go ahead and take a look at the latest headlines about this because this is quite insane. And the article from New York Post says 3 dead, 8 wounded in early morning in New York City restaurant mass shooting. Let's have a look at the video to see more.
Yo. Keep going.
Devastating indeed. As you saw in the video, paramedics are on the scene and police assessing the situation. Let's go ahead and continue with the article. It says 3 people were killed and 8 others wounded when multiple gunmen opened fire inside a Brooklyn hookah lounge and restaurant around closing time Sunday morning. Again, this is coming out within the last 24 hours. As of this morning, officers responded to calls of a shooting inside Taste of the City Lounge at 903 Franklin Avenue in Crown Heights just before 3:30 a.m. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Titch said at a press briefing, the 3 people killed were all men ages 27, 35, and one whose age wasn't immediately known. Cops said all 3 were pronounced dead at the scene. As you see here, some stills from that night, like we just saw in the video. And again, this is happening within the last 24 hours, actually a couple hours ago. No arrests were made in the shooting, and suspects have yet to be identified. The 8 wounded victims, 5 men and 3 women, were taken to local hospitals with what cops said were non-life-threatening injuries. The oldest injured victim was 61. At least 36 shell casings were found from the scene of the shooting, which was reportedly sparked by a dispute inside the crowded lounge. And here you have it. There's been 8 wounded victims, 5 men and 3 women, but they are non-life-threatening injuries. They are being seen right now, currently at the hospital. Because of this incident. Detectives recovered a firearm from the vicinity of Bedford Avenue and Eastern Parkway, but are still investigating whether this weapon was tied to the morning's shooting. We have the lowest number of shooting incidents and shooting victims 7 months into the year we've seen on record in the city of New York, Titch said. Something like this is, of course, thank God, an anomaly, and it's terrible. It's a terrible thing that's happened this morning. The NYPD has opened an investigation into the early morning shooting. NYPD personnel stood inside the business near a pool of blood and broken glass. As you see here, some more stills. One here of the Commissioner Jessica Titch giving an update at a press briefing today, August 17. Taste of the City Lounge serves American and Caribbean plates with a full bar, hookah, and DJs. This business opened in 2022 and was the scene of another shooting in November 2024. There were non-fatal injuries in that shooting. It is located less than half a mile from the historic Brooklyn Museum. And there you have it, guys. This is not the first time this has happened at this hookah lounge over in New York City. But they are assessing the situation, trying to figure out what happened, and trying to get to the bottom of this disaster and incident that they are having currently right there. My prayers go out for those who had their lives lost and those suffering the injuries currently. Moving on to our next headline here, and it's on Putin. It's the article coming out of the U.S. Sun. States Putin has laid a cunning trap that makes Zelensky's White House visit a minefield. Russian leader knows the peace he wants. So, Putin is set to meet with Zelensky at some time near the future, but it's not just a ordinary meetup. He has some ground rules laid out before he meets with Zelensky, and we're going to get it right into that in this article. It says Putin wants to bounce Zelensky into a take-it-or-leave-it deal, but what would peace be like? Let's have a look at the video here.
Donald Trump has said Russia and Ukraine both believe a full peace deal is the best way to end the war in Ukraine instead of a ceasefire. The US president is set to discuss the terms of an agreement with Volodymyr Zelensky on Monday when he travels to the White House following the Alaskan summit. Trump hailed his talks with Vladimir Putin as great and very successful as he detailed the next steps in securing peace in Ukraine. The US delegation left Alaska in Air Force One after a long day and landed back in Washington shortly after 7 a.m. Trump held a lengthy phone call with Zelensky during the flight as he invited the Ukrainian president to Washington in just 48 hours' time. Zelensky later posted on Telegram, accepting the invitation, as he added, "We discussed positive signals from the American side regarding participation in guaranteeing security for Ukraine." NATO leaders were also updated on the summit in a separate call with Trump. The US president revealed on Truth Social that he informed the European side and Zelensky of Putin's main wish for a complete end to the war instead of a ceasefire. Trump later confirmed it was determined by all that the best way to end the horrific war between Russia and Ukraine is to go directly to a peace agreement. The latest update came hours after the US president rated his talks with Putin as 10 out of 10, but he did admit we haven't quite got there. He later added, "There's no deal until there's a deal." Trump followed this up by insisting it's now up to Zelensky to get it done and secure a peace deal over Ukraine's future. Putin himself also claimed he was sincerely interested in ending the war, but back home, his troops continued their savage bombardment with over 85 attack drones and a ballistic missile all fired overnight, according to Kyiv's Air Force.
I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO.
Well, I think we're effectively where we were before the summit. It doesn't look, at least on preliminary evidence, as though there's been much progress. Trump certainly talked about, many areas on which they agree, but he said ultimately there was no deal. And I think probably that's linked to Vladimir Putin saying that we need to look at the root causes of this conflict, and that's code for the kind of maximalist demands that he's articulated since the invasion in 2022. given that Kiev isn't in the room, and many European nations who have contributed to protecting and defending Ukraine are also not present. So it remains to be seen whether, in fact, anything that Putin and Trump might negotiate between themselves would be acceptable in Ukraine, because it can simply say, no, we will continue fighting. Yes, it's certainly a win for Vladimir Putin. The optics of it were that, he came to American territory, but American territory in Alaska, which, of course, previously was part of the Russian Federation. And there was a lot of media talk in Russia and billboards going up saying, Alaska is Russian and we will take that back. So he got a photo opportunity with Donald Trump. So it makes him look respected and valued, and making the American president travel all the way to Anchorage to meet him. And at the same time, he basically dodges those sanctions that Trump had threatened. I think probably this is Putin trying to buy as much time as possible, and certainly, with this initial meeting, he would have come with a plan not to get to any rapid agreement, but to keep Trump wanting to continue engaging, and hence that's why I think he's proposed to follow up in Moscow, which, in addition to the optics, a bit of a propaganda coup for Putin. I think this once again signals the Trump administration's desire to have a good relationship with Russia. That's more than just a reset, and to an extent, the war in Ukraine is a bit of a sideshow to that. Trump wants good trade relations. It's notable, of course, that Putin dangled the prospect of enhanced trade relations. Obviously, that would be in return for dropping sanctions. But of course, that is something still that's really quite unpopular in the United States. Even large numbers, the vast majority of Republican voters, don't trust Putin and don't think that the US should have a full reset with Russia. Well, I think the notion of swapping territory is a kind of strange word to use. There's no actual Russian territory proposed to be swapped. The only question is, how much land must Ukraine cede to Russia? Now, of course, Russia claims 4 regions of Ukraine, and has even written them into its constitution to say this is part of Russia. But on the battlefield, it only really fully controls one of those territories.
I think from a European perspective, you will be quite pleased with having avoided worse outcomes. Basically, that what appears to have been discussed at the summit was an immediate ceasefire, meaning not a ceasefire following a land swap or anything like that. And that's obviously what the Europeans, the chronology that Europe wanted. So from that perspective, no outcome is a good outcome because you avoided something worse. When we consider that yesterday was a quote-unquote normal bloody day on the front line, Russia has now established the precedent that you can actually conduct negotiations, at least with the United States, while the war is going on, meaning without a ceasefire. And that certainly is, again, something that the Russian government would have liked because they want to continue the war. And of course, getting a summit with the US president is always something that Russian leaders want, especially a leader who's under a war crimes indictment and has difficulty traveling to many countries. Well, he just traveled to the United States. And was received literally with a red carpet and all of that. So even no outcome is a good outcome for Russia. They got a lot of things that they didn't have before.
And there you have it, guys. You heard it. President Vladimir Zelensky, Putin, is looking for an outcome that benefits himself for his tactics in this war currently. So we'll see how this turns out. The article continues here at first sight. Friday summit meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin came to no clear conclusion. And this comes as they've been having talks now for months about certain conclusion and ending this war, but have not come into any agreements. The article continues here after these stills. Since Alaska, Trump has shifted from demanding an immediate ceasefire to calling for immediate and full peace agreement. This is what Putin wants, to bounce Zelensky into a take-it-or-leave-it deal. But what would peace be like? To be sure, Putin knows what he means by peace. Ukraine surrenders to his key demands. Kiev gives up a swathe of territory to Russia. It abandons any hope of integrating into Western institutions such as NATO or the EU. And it disarms so it cannot repeat the tough fight it has put up since February 2022, in case Russia decides to reinvade, the article says. In the meantime, sanctions on Russia are lifted and the Kremlin gets back to its $300 billion assets frozen in the West. A fast-tracked peace deal means Ukraine agreeing to complicated things such as who gets what territory to what kind of country it will be internally. Putin wants to keep the Crimea Peninsula plus the 4 southern regions which his army occupies. He might swap a slither of land for a tiny bit of Russia's Kursk region, which Ukraine army holds, but he will never give up Crimea. And there you have it, guys. These are the demands from Putin. This is what needs to happen for them to reach an agreement. It's been laid out, and the only thing left is to see if President Zelensky of Ukraine will accept to the terms. And that's all I have for today. Hope you have a great day. Feel free to leave comments or subscribe if you want to keep up to date with the latest. Until next time.